Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a very special episode of Easy Buckets. How y'all doing today? In today's video, we're gonna be talking about a potential superstar in the NBA that could be traded. And you all know who I'm talking about. This player is Paul George of the Los Angeles Clippers. We all know what happened to the Clippers this year. They lost in the second round of the NBA playoffs to the Denver Nuggets, but not only lost, they blew a 3-1 lead. The point is, they were supposed to win the series, not only win the series, win the NBA championship. But they definitely disappointed, and the Denver Nuggets pulled a big upset. And after this devastating loss, the rumors of Paul George being traded is on another level right now. A report just came out that the owner of the Clippers said that when it comes to this offseason, everybody on the roster is tradable except Kawhi Leonard. A big statement like this says a lot of things, but what's most important now is that other teams in the NBA are going to want to call the Clippers and say, what do you want for Paul George? I want him. We all know about how Paul George underperformed in the NBA playoffs this year. It literally, and maybe just a little bit, decreased his value in the NBA. That's why a lot of teams are going to want to use this opportunity to get him at the best price possible. I'll be honest, guys, every single day, the chances of PG-13 actually getting traded, it just keeps getting higher and higher and higher. So if you're a big NBA fan and love blockbuster trades, this video is perfect for you. But before I get to the video, I just want to say, if you're new to the channel and love basketball, welcome to Easy Buckets. My name is Soom, and I make basketball videos every single day. I'm dropping 6 videos per week, and I guarantee you guys will love the content I'm putting out. So if you're new, be sure to hit that subscribe button and click this button right here, the post notification bell, to not miss any of my upcoming videos. If you watched the video and you love these trades, be sure to double smash that thumbs up button. I'd really appreciate it. It would really help out the channel. Every single day I post a video, I just want to spread love, joy, and happiness to you guys. So I hope you guys are getting that from me. And I'm telling you this, the videos are not stopping anytime soon. But without wasting any more time, we're going straight into the Paul George trade rumors. Y'all ready? Let's get it. Let's go. When Paul George first got traded from the Thunder to the Clippers last offseason, literally everyone was talking about how this team with Paul George and Kawhi, they're gonna easily be the NBA champions in 2020. And although these are high expectations early on, the roster they built, they're easily a championship contender and should not have lost in the second round of the playoffs. And a lot of people are putting the blame on Paul George on why they lost. A report from Fox Sports says this about Paul George, that after the game, from what he heard at the exit interviews, Paul George did not get rave reviews from his teammates after the game. Basically, they weren't happy with how Paul George has played, especially in the second round of the playoffs. This is also not the first time we hear about Paul George having some issues with his teammates. In Game 2 of the Western Conference semifinals, him and Harrell had a little tension when it comes to something Paul George did in the game. Harrell says that in the game, Paul George had a very clumsy turnover, but he still refused to take responsibility for it. And the report was that Montrez had to say to Paul George this, "You're always right. Nobody can tell you anything." Which shows a small red flag, especially in the locker room. And if you're gonna win an NBA championship as a team, there shouldn't be any problems in the locker room. Another reason why I believe the Clippers might be having a small problem when it comes to chemistry and, locker room issues is because Doc Rivers, their head coach, literally left the team, and it really confused all of us on why he did it. We all know about how bad they've played this playoffs, but still, they're still a good team and could still go next year. So the question is, why is Doc Rivers leaving? Maybe it's because the Clippers are planning to make some big moves this offseason that makes Doc Rivers unsure of staying. And as I mentioned earlier, the Paul George trades, it just keeps getting likely every day. So in this video, I'm going to be talking to you guys about 5 trade scenarios that I believe will be perfect for the Clippers and perfect for Paul George. The first team is the Brooklyn Nets going for Paul George. This is actually the biggest rumor right now when it comes to Paul George joining a team and becoming a third star and creating a super team in the NBA. The Brooklyn Nets are going to be one of the hottest teams in this upcoming offseason, as they have said it themselves that they want to pursue a third star to join Kyrie, Irving, and Kevin Durant, and Paul George might just be perfect for that role. The Nets also have a lot of good trading assets that any team would love to take on, and if the Clippers do trade with the Nets, they'll be getting some good assets in return. If the Nets can offer up Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, and their 2020 first round pick, which is the 19th overall pick, I believe that will be perfect for the Los Angeles Clippers and Paul George. On the Brooklyn Nets perspective, they'll be getting a third superstar of Paul George and having a crazy starting lineup of Kyrie Irving, Paul George, Kevin Durant, Taurean Prince maybe, and DeAndre Jordan. This team would easily run the Eastern Conference. On the Clippers perspective, they'll be getting players to fill their starting lineup and creating a better team overall. They'll be filling that point guard position with Spencer Dinwiddie, then they'll have Karis LeVert shooting guard, Kawhi Leonard at small forward, maybe re-signing Marcus Morris, and Jared Allen to start at the center position. The Clippers would have a better, well-balanced team. The rumors of PG going to the Nets, it just makes sense, and is probably the most likely to happen in this upcoming offseason if Paul George is truly going to get traded. The next team on this list is the Boston Celtics going for Paul George. The Boston Celtics and the Clippers are both in the same boat this year. They definitely had a letdown season. They were both projected to go to the NBA Finals. The Clippers and the Celtics are both in the same situation. They both have a star on their team that truly underperformed in the NBA playoffs, and that's why doing a swap might benefit both teams. If the Celtics can offer up Kemba Walker and Daniel Tice in return for Paul George, I believe it would benefit both teams. On the Clippers' perspective, they'll be getting two positions that could easily fill that starting spot. They could put Kemba Walker as their starting point guard, and Daniel Tice is easily better than Zubac, so Tice could be that starting center. On the Boston Celtics perspective, they'll be getting an upgrade when it comes to a superstar, and they'll have Marcus Smart at point guard, Jaylen Brown shooting guard, Paul George small forward, Tatum at power forward, and maybe start Enes Kanter. Both teams are still going to be contenders no matter what, and doing this trade will still elevate both teams on different levels. The Clippers will get some small depth and a better point guard, and maybe Kemba Walker can help that locker room, and the Boston Celtics will just be a next super team. The third team is the 76ers going for Paul George and pairing him alongside Joel Embiid. When it comes to a championship team, you need a dominant small forward and a dominant big man, like the Lakers have LeBron and Anthony Davis, and Paul George and Embiid could be that factor in the Eastern Conference. The 76ers 100% had a horrible playoff season. They got swept in the first round of the playoffs, and they're going to be making some big moves this offseason, either trading Joel Embiid or Ben Simmons. In this trade scenario, I believe if the 76ers can do a one-for-one trade of Ben Simmons for Paul George, this will help both sides. The Clippers will be getting a position they need help with at that point guard and have Lou Will as their shooting guard, while the 76ers can have a crazy front court of Paul George small forward, Tobias power forward, and Embiid at center. We all know what Paul George can do when he's given the best opportunity, and going to Philly and having a new situation might be a good idea. The only problem in this scenario, though, is that Doc Rivers is the new head coach of Philly, so maybe Doc Rivers doesn't want to get Paul George again, but you never know. Anything could happen. The fourth team on this list is Paul George going to the Utah Jazz. The Clippers do need a dominant center, and who does the Jazz have that a lot of teams want? They have Rudy Gobert that could potentially go wild in next year's upcoming offseason, and that's why the Jazz might be wanting to trade him this offseason. If the Utah Jazz knows this and wants to trade Gobert instead of losing him for nothing next year, maybe offering up Rudy Gobert, Emmanuel Mudiay, their 2020 first round pick, and their 2022 first round pick, might be able to land Paul George, and Paul George could easily be a big factor to Donovan Mitchell's development, as they can be the shooting guard and small forward combo in Utah. On the Clippers' perspective, they'll be finally getting a superstar defender at that center position, and their lineup will consist of two players that are elite at defending. Having Kawhi and Rudy Gobert there is great for interior and perimeter defending. The Clippers had a problem guarding Nikola Jokic this year, and that's why getting a player like Rudy Gobert could be helpful and beneficial to the team long term. The fourth trade scenario is my personal favorite, and that's the Lakers going for Paul George, as this has been rumors on multiple occasions. The Lakers are probably going to win the NBA championship this year, and in this upcoming offseason, they must try to get better to go for a back-to-back run. If the Lakers can offer up Danny Green, Kyle Kuzma, JaVale McGee, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Quinn Cook, and their 2020 first-round pick, the Clippers might actually listen and would accept that trade because they'll be getting a lot of depth in return. The Lakers would then have an amazing starting lineup of Rajon Rondo, Paul George, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Dwight Howard. This team would go wild and would probably win an NBA back-to-back championship. We all know that Paul George wants to win, but a big request he made last year was that he wants to play in LA, and going from the Clippers to the Lakers, you're still in Los Angeles and getting the perks of playing for an amazing team. I'll be honest though, Paul George to the Lakers is not as likely as the other options, but would still be pretty cool, and the NBA would love to see a new super team form and LeBron go for another championship run. But this wraps up my video for today on Paul George trade rumors and potentially what are the best spots for him. But what's most important to me is I want to know your opinions. What do you guys think? Should the Clippers trade Paul George? And if they do decide to, what is the perfect team for him? But other than that, take it easy. God bless, and I'll see you all next time on Easy Buckets. Woo!